Hi everybody, my name is Emily Smolowitz and I am an environmental educator with the Schuylkill Center. Today is our second week of doing our virtual Schuylkill Saturday. So every week until we can meet again in person, we're going to be doing these meetings on Facebook Live, and sometimes they'll be at the Schuylkill Center, sometimes they'll be outdoors. Last week Amanda's lesson was inside because it was raining, but we're going to try and be outdoors as much as possible. So feel free to start tuning in every Saturday at 10:30. Today our topic is going to be about tree ID and how to identify trees by their leaves. So we are going to talk about the benefits of trees and the different ways we can identify them. So I'm going to give us a few minutes just to let some people chime in. I know we got started right at 10:30. I hope you guys are able to enjoy the weather today. I'm sitting outside right now in my backyard and it's beautiful, and tomorrow looks like it's going to be beautiful as well. And if you guys can hear me, give me a thumbs up, give me a heart, not a sad face please. Awesome. Again, for those who have just tuned in, this is our second week of virtual Schuylkill Saturdays until we can meet again in person. We will be doing these every week with a different educator, a different topic, and until we can get back to the Schuylkill Center and be doing them in person there. So again, if any questions come up along the way, please feel free to comment, and we'll answer your questions as we go along. I'm going to just give it like one more minute, let people tune in, and then we'll get started. I hope you guys have all had a chance to visit the Schuylkill Center. If you haven't, our trails are open at the moment. Our visitor center is not, but feel free to go and visit, take a walk. A lot of the trees all of the trees we'll be talking about today, you can find at the Schuylkill Center, so you can go there and take your new skills and try to identify some different trees. Alright, so I think we're going to get started now. So one more time, my name is Emily. I'm an environmental educator at the Schuylkill Center, and today we are going to be talking about trees and how to ID them by their leaves. So before we get started with the identification, I wanted to start off with talking about the benefits of trees. So as we know, trees provide so many benefits for not only us, but our environment, the wildlife, a lot of different things. Without them, I don't think we would be surviving very well on this planet. So to start off, we know that trees give off oxygen for us to breathe in, for our animals to breathe in, plants, but what it also does, it absorbs a lot of toxins and pollutants in our air. So things like gases coming from cars, buildings, factories, all of that is absorbed by the trees, so it actually filters our air, so it can clean our air for us and make it a lot more healthier. As well as cleaning our air, it cleans our water systems as well. So as you can see here, I'm sitting along the Perkiomen Creek. As this stream goes by, last night we had a big rainstorm, and all the trees are able to absorb some of that water and help prevent flooding, and that water that they suck up, if it is filled with pollutants or toxins, it can help filter that water, so as it goes through our watershed, so our streams, our rivers, everything that leads out to the Schuylkill River for us, it could potentially clean and filter that water to make it a little bit cleaner for when it ends up in the river and in the oceans. Another thing about trees, because they're so wonderful, they are a natural air conditioner. So this becomes really important when we get into cities especially. Cities can become really, really hot due to all the buildings and the surfaces there are. So we are able to decrease that temperature by adding trees. They usually can decrease the temperature by like 6 to 10 degrees depending on the amount of trees that there are. Does anyone else out there who is watching have another benefit of trees that are important to us and the environment and wildlife that they want to mention? Well, there's a lot out there, and if anything comes along, please feel free to say it in the comments. We are going to get started with our tree ID. And again, all these trees, they can probably be found in your backyard. Yes, Jessica, homes for animals. That is a really great example. You know, birds, squirrels, all different animals, they really rely on that habitat. And as we start cutting down our forest, excuse me, poor setup. Yes, habitats, prevents erosion. Yeah, that's all really good. Provide food. Awesome. So you guys already have a lot of benefits down. That's great. So again, noise reduction. Thank you, Kelly. You guys are all flooding in with comments. This is awesome. So again, yes, all these different ideas is why we need to keep our trees for, you know, stop the deforestation and start replanting, and we need to make sure they're native to our areas. So again, really important stuff. So we are going to get started with our tree identification. Again, you can find all these trees probably in your backyard, a nearby park, a forest, definitely at the Schuylkill Center, I know that for sure. So along the way, if you have questions, please feel free to comment. All right, so our first tree we are going to start with is a very common one. And here is this leaf. Does anyone recognize this leaf? Hi, Isabel. I miss you guys. So this is an oak leaf, and specifically a red oak leaf. So these are really, really common, especially in Pennsylvania. There are over 90 species of oak trees in Pennsylvania alone. So this type of leaf is very abundant, and red oak is very popular. So to kind of compare the two different species, I also picked up this oak leaf, and this is a white oak. So a term we are going to use today about our leaves is the term lobes. So lobes are these different points on leaves, and that's a lot of the times how we use to identify leaves as well. You can count the lobes. There's a lot of tree guides that tell you like an oak leaf has about 7 to 10 lobes. So we have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lobes. So that can help you identify this as an oak leaf besides the shape. So again, this is white oak. We could see it's a little bit more smoother than the red oak, and this is the red oak, so it's a bit more sharper and pointier edges. All right, so I bet a lot of us have seen these trees around. So moving on, we are going to get going with this one. Do we recognize this leaf? I'm sorry if it's hard to see. Anyone have any idea what this leaf is? So to get us going, this is a maple leaf. So we have all heard of maple syrup before. This is, you know, a Canadian staple. Yes, Jessica, very good, maple. And then, so this specifically is a silver maple. Again, this is also a very abundant tree in Pennsylvania. Across, you know, North America, we have a lot of maple trees. So this is a silver maple. And then to compare, this is a sugar maple. So as we can see, the lobes, again, these pointy edges, they have 5, typically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this sugar maple in the fall, these are the really bright orange trees, and they are beautiful. And these are the two comparisons. So as we can see, the lobes here are a little thicker as compared to the silver maple. And I just want to mention that leaves are not the only way to identify trees, that they're just the easiest, because they can be very unique. You can also identify trees by their bark, by their twigs and buds, by their seeds, by their fruits. It just takes a little bit more studying to do that. So since it's springtime, we're going to focus on leaves, but we also usually do a lot of winter hikes and, you know, learn how to identify the bark shape and bark patterns and the buds of trees. So that's another way you can try and identify trees. All right, moving on. So this is a tree I could not find near my house. I walked for about 40 minutes yesterday and I had no success, but I do know there is some at the Schuylkill Center. So I just drew a picture of this one. Does anyone have an idea of what this leaf is? Give it a minute. All right, so this is a sassafras leaf. The way I like to remember that this is a sassafras leaf is I think it looks like a dinosaur's footprint. So that's what I've always remembered it as. I think other people have said different shapes before. So that's one way to remember it if you ever come across it. Now the tricky thing about sassafras is the lobes here. We have 3 lobes, 1, 2, 3. However, they can come in other shapes as well. So they can come only with 2 lobes, 3 lobes, or 1 lobe. So if you ever come across a leaf like this, I know a lot of them look like that, but it'll be a little more specific when we're talking about sassafras. 2 lobes or 3 lobes, it might be a sassafras leaf, or it will be a sassafras leaf. And you know, these smell really good. A lot of people make tea out of sassafras leaves. You know, too much can be toxic, so you do need to be careful and make sure you're measuring it out and cooking it all the way, but they're really great. Great trees, and they have a lot of fun color variations in the fall time. All right, so moving on to our very last tree leaf, we have this one, which is a little bit different than the ones we've seen before, but I'm sure we have all witnessed this before. This is a white pine branch with their different needles. And I also have the pine cone to go along with it. So the difference between the pine trees and the other leaves we were looking at is in the fall and winter, pine trees do not lose their needles. They do not fall off. How when, you know, oak trees and maple trees, they turn different colors and then they lose all their trees in the winter. Those types of trees, the oaks and the maples, are called deciduous. That means they change throughout the seasons. So they'll lose their leaves and, you know, come back in the spring. But pine trees and spruce trees and all those evergreen trees you see, these are called carnivorous, which means they do not lose their leaves or needles in the wintertime. All right, so we are going to do a quick quiz before I give you guys your take-home activity. Can we remember what this leaf was? And points if you get the correct species. It has the rounded lobes. It has about 8 rounded lobes. Anyone want to take a guess? I know sometimes the comments are delayed as well, so give it just a couple seconds. Sugar maple, close. It's a little bit smaller than the sugar maple. Red oak, so we're in the oak family, that's correct. Oak. So this is the white oak. With the rounded lobes is the white oak. But oak is great. That's the first step, is identifying the tree in general, not the specific species. So awesome. We will do another one. What about this one? This is the skinnier one. Has about 5 points or 5 lobes. It looks similar to other ones we have looked at as well. I'll give you guys a few seconds. Yes, Delaney, silver maple, good work. Very awesome. All right, so we'll do one final test and then I'll move on to our take-home activity. What would this leaf be? It has the 2 lobes and it can vary. Give us a few seconds. You can also make tea out of this one we spoke about just before. Tulip. I wish we had a tulip tree. I tried to find one, but I struggled as well. I have a very limited species around me, apparently. Sassafras. Yes, Julianne. Yes, Marvina. Sassafras leaf. Awesome. And again, they can come 3 lobes, 2 lobes, 1 lobe. All right, guys, that was awesome. I hope you took a lot away today from our ID and you're able to get out there and hopefully, test out your new skills. To help you with that, our take-home activity is going to be making a nature journal. So this is mine, it says Emily's Nature Journal, and you can make it out of a stick, and I'm going to post instructions in the comments after, so you can follow the instructions, or if you just want to staple paper together, I use some recycled paper I have, or tie it with string, whatever works best for you. But this is my nature journal. Inside it you can draw the different leaves you see. So I chose to draw an oak leaf, so it might be a little hard to see with the bright green, but I drew its shape, labeled it, and I also drew a little acorn down at the bottom since that's its seeds that come with it. So that is an option. You can also just choose to write what you saw and say, today I saw 2 pine trees and collected pine cones, and you can draw what you would like at the bottom. You can also do bark or leaf rubbings, which I don't have in the instructions, but what you do is you take the side of a crayon and you can put paper up against a tree and rub the side of the crayon against the paper, and it'll come up with the bark pattern, which always comes up really cool. And you can do the same thing with a leaf. So simply just take the leaf, put it on paper, put another paper on top of it, and rub, and you'll get the veins and everything. All right. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Feel free to comment, ask more questions. After I get off of here, I'm gonna post our take-home activity, and we'll be here every Saturday until we can meet again. So thank you guys for tuning in.